My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Okay, I was not going to make a video today. It wasn't part of the plan, but I have to. I absolutely have to. This was the most epic two-leg elimination round I've ever seen in the European Cup. I've been watching this for 50 years in both formats. This was, we've seen a lot of amazing comebacks in the past, usually Real Madrid. We've also seen, really good elimination rounds where, the home team dominates one match, then the other team dominates the other home match. This was different. This was absolutely dramatic. Each of the two legs were like a back and forth with alternating leads and completely unpredictable. The level of drama and unpredictability of this was incredible. This was absolutely epic, but there's some really important takeaways I want to share with you. Some of them relate to football, and I think are quite important, looking at the Clásico coming up on the weekend. But some of the other takeaways have to do with hypocrisy and karma and broader spiritual issues. But let me give you my thoughts on this incredible epic match last night. Thanks for joining me, and let me give you my thoughts. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let me give you my thoughts on this incredibly epic match last night. And I'm going to say it again. I think this was probably the best two legs elimination round I've ever seen in the European Cup. This was really, truly dramatic. I mean, every minute of each of the two legs was just so intense and unpredictable. This was absolutely amazing. Now, let me give you some thoughts and some takeaways, and we'll start with the ones that relate just to the match and to football, and then we'll move on to other issues. But the first thing I have to say, and this refers to what you see in the thumbnail, winning the Champions League is really, really difficult. Okay, this is a very difficult tournament to win, because to win the Champions League, you have to be very good and very lucky. And if you're only good, you're not going to win it. And if you're only lucky, you won't win it. You have to be very good, and you have to have luck on your side. This is a very, very difficult tournament to win. And I think that, honestly, the thumbnail is 100% correct. If you think winning one is difficult, imagine what it means to win 15. Imagine what it means to win 15 out of 18 finals. Imagine what it means to win 3 in a row. 5 in a row, 3 in a row, 4 in 5 years. We just come off winning 6 in 10 years. That's more than Barça in their entire history, and we did it in a decade. I do think that it underscores that this is a very difficult tournament. It's incredibly difficult. Playing away from home in Europe is extremely difficult, but I think that it underscores what Real Madrid has accomplished, and I think it just really puts a spotlight on how amazing Real Madrid is, and that we're just in a different category, a category of our own. That's the first thing I would say. Number two, and this is very important with a view to the match on the weekend, Barça's defensive high line is something we need to really concentrate on. Now, I was texting with friends during each of the two legs, some of my friends who are Barça supporters, and I was saying, dude, the high line is suicidal. Barça plays a very, very offensive-minded football. When it clicks, it's wonderful to watch. Very fluid, very quick ball circulation, everybody on the front foot. It's really, it's a great, very kind of beautiful style to watch, but it's very risky. That defensive line of Barça is so far up the pitch. They're like at around the halfway line. I mean, they take so much risk with that back line, and it only takes one good pass to get behind them, and you're on a one-on-one situation. This is something that I think Davide Ancelotti, Carlo Ancelotti need to have been focused on yesterday, taking notes that if you can get one pass behind that last defensive line, and it's wide open. The pitch is wide open. This is the weakness in Barça. This is a team that does not defend particularly well, and the style of play is very risky. And I think if Real Madrid really focuses on that high line, knowing that you just need to get one good through ball between the lines, get behind that defensive line, and we can do a lot of damage. I think that's a very important thing to note, and I've been making a note of this all year in terms of Barça's play. That defensive line is suicidal, and we need to use it to our advantage. Okay, number 3. This was no fluke, okay? Yes, during the periods that Barça was better than Inter, so the second half of the first leg, the second half of the second leg, Barça was much, much better, and they just looked totally dominant. But it was only half of the tie. Because I think Inter were better in the first half of the first leg. I think Inter were better in the first half of last night's match. And then, of course, in extra time, kind of everything is up in the air. But this was no fluke, okay? This was no Barça dominated and clearly, and this was sort of some fluke of nature. No. This was, I think that they split the time in terms of who was better. Barça's was visually, more dominant during the periods that they were better, but this was no fluke. So just please, you have to accept that this was not a fluke. Either of these teams could have won, and Inter ended up going through, but it was not a fluke. Okay, number 4, and this is very important. Football is not just attacking, it's also defending. You have to do both. If you want to succeed, you have to do both. And Barça is a team that attacks probably better than anyone else in the world. Maybe PSG is up there with them. But Barça attacks incredibly well, but they don't defend very well. You conceded 7 goals in 2 matches. 7 goals in 2 matches. Do you really expect to go through when you're conceding 7 goals in 2 matches? You really expect to make it to a final? Look, we cannot forget this. You have to play football in its entirety. You have to attack well, but you have to defend well. Football is more than attacking, and last night was just a wonderful example of that. Okay, number 5. And I'm just so sick of hearing the bitching from Barça supporters about the ref. I'm really, really sorry for those of you that are watching this that are Barça supporters. I hate to break this to you. The ref didn't make any major mistakes. I'm sorry, he didn't. Okay, because there was a handball potentially against Barça that wasn't called. I know it hit, his body, and maybe it wouldn't have been called, but that wasn't called as a penalty. The foul on Lamine when he was going into the box, that was outside the box. I'm sorry, it was. This is just a fact, and you can see very clearly the contact was outside the box, and it was only the momentum that carried them into the box. But that was not a penalty, so please don't mention that. Okay, Íñigo Martínez. He spat on an Inter player. After one of the Inter goals, Íñigo Martínez, and you can see it very clearly on camera, he spits he tries to spit on an Inter player. Now, he could have gotten a red card for that. And I think that the ref was very lenient and let him off the hook, because you can easily get a red card for spitting on your opponent. And that wasn't called. Okay, at the end of the first half, when the ref blew the whistle, by the way, he gave too many minutes, I think, of added time in the first half, and especially in the extra time. So, we have to throw that in there too. But when he blew the whistle at the end of the first half, it was at a moment that an Inter player had received the ball. It was a one-on-one right in front of the goalkeeper. This was an absolutely clear scoring opportunity, and the ref blew the whistle right that second, and San Siro went crazy. I mean, don't forget that too, please. And by the way, the one that they're really bitching about, the 3-3, and that they're saying that there was a foul on I can't remember who it was. I think it was Gerard. I'm sorry, that was not a foul. Okay, he gets to the ball. Martinez gets to the ball first, and it looks like he's going to control it, but he doesn't, Gerard. And then the Inter player takes over the ball. He controls the ball. Now, in the process of doing so, just marginally touches the Barça player, but it was not a foul. These are 2 players competing for the ball, and the Inter player won possession of the ball. That was not a foul. So, you can bitch all you want, but it was not a foul. So there's absolutely nothing to complain about in terms of the ref. I'm really sorry about that. Number 6, you have to play to the final whistle. At this level, in this competition, you have to play to the final whistle. And I think that Barça just, they had a sense after they scored in the 88th minute, this was incredible. They score the 2-3, and, in the minutes following that, they just looked really comfortable. They didn't adjust their style of play taking into account that there are only a few minutes left, and maybe what you want to do is kill the match. But you have to play to the final whistle. But you could see the players already hugging each other on the bench. In the stands, you could see Laporta and his crew all hugging each other like it was a done deal. You don't celebrate victories until you've won. And you have to play to the final whistle. And this is something Real Madrid knows better than any other club in the world, because we play to the final whistle. And that's why wonderful things have happened to us in the past. But that's another important takeaway. Now, okay, moving past footballing issues and talking about sort of hypocrisy and karma, we have to talk about this, because it is amazing to me, the bullshit that I'm hearing out there. It's absolutely incredible. But the first thing I would say is, don't talk shit until you've won. Okay, if you want to talk smack, wait until you win. Wait until you lift the trophy. Don't talk shit beforehand. But, Barca supporters have a tendency, they're very hysterical. They're just hysterical about everything. So any player coming out of La Masia is the best player in the history of mankind. Cubarsí plays 2 good matches, and, he's Beckenbauer. And Lamine is going to win the next 9 Ballon d'Ors in a row. Like, all of these, and we're playing the best football Europe has ever seen. Just all of these incredible exaggerations. Shut up, okay? Wait until you win. Wait until you lift the trophy to talk crap. Be humble until the moment where you are allowed to celebrate your accomplishment. That's the first thing I would say. And, karma is a bitch, but, she always comes around. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing is the hypocrisy of these guys to complain about refs. Hansi Flick in his interviews, you're blaming it on the ref, and all the Barca players that were interviewed on the way out complaining about the ref. The ref did not influence this tie. He did not determine who won this. Inter won this fair and square. And it is amazing to me that a team that has paid $8.5 million to bribe refs for the last 20 years in Spain, and this was not, they've admitted to making these payments. You have a Spanish judge that has declared officially that there is ample evidence of systemic corruption in the Spanish Liga. All of this, so that team that has been bribing refs, that has the best referee tally in terms of decisions in all of Europe for the last 20 years, for you to complain about refs? And another thing I find amazing is they say that Real Madrid TV, intimidates refs just by showing replays, because Real Madrid TV shows replays and some of the refereeing decisions in previous matches. That apparently is intimidation. But you guys now can walk out and everybody criticizing the ref and saying that UEFA is against them and that UEFA is corrupt and all this nonsense. You have to make up your mind. Okay, this is just so hypocritical. And in an interview, Hansi Flick recently was saying that, we don't like to talk about refs. When the match is over, the match is over. Well, that's not what you did last night. You guys need to make up your mind on this. But I can tell you that there have been robberies in UEFA in the Champions League in the past. I remember this one in 2009, and guess who was on the winning end of that one? Okay, so I don't think Barca is in a position to complain about refs ever. If there's one club in the world that should never talk about refs, it's Barca. So I just think the hypocrisy is unbelievable, and I have to mention it because it's ridiculous. Okay, number 3, you need to decide whether the Champions League is important or not, because you keep changing your mind. Because the commentary that I was hearing on TV last night, and all of these, the Barca media circus around here, that Lamine Yamal has to win the Ballon d'Or because he was so good in the Champions League. Really? Because last year Vini was much more dominant in the Champions League than Lamine has been this year, much more. He scored, the semifinal, he dominated both legs against Bayern Munich. He scored goals in the semifinals and in the final. He was by far the best player. But you know what? The Ballon d'Or didn't go to Vini. It didn't go to Jude. It didn't go to Carvajal. It didn't go to Toni Kroos. It went to Rodri, who wasn't even in the top 5. So please, if either the Champions League is really important, in which case Vini is the winner of the Ballon d'Or last year, or it's not. But you can't decide that this year the Champions League is really important and Lamine has to get the Ballon d'Or. But last year the Champions League wasn't important and Vini was the best player by far, but he doesn't deserve it because last year the Champions League didn't matter, but this year it does. So you guys need to make up your mind on that. There's the level of hypocrisy just really drives me crazy, but I had to mention that. Okay, look, this underscores, I'm going to say it again, this underscores who we are. shows you the difficulty in winning the Champions League, the level of competitiveness, the unpredictability, the hostile sort of environments when you travel around Europe. All of this, I think, underscores the unbelievable accomplishments of Real Madrid, and this puts those 15 European Cups at an even higher pedestal, and we have to acknowledge that. In terms of the match coming up on the weekend, the Clásico, there are a couple of things that I would mention. First of all, we need to really think about that high line and make sure that we're playing intelligently and we can defend in our own half. But once we recover the ball, we have to be very aware, because if we get the ball behind that last defensive line, which is really far up, players like Kylian and Vini can have a field day. So I think it's very important. The observations that we made, I think, are very important with respect to the match coming up on the weekend. Another thing that I'm very worried about, and I'm going to tell you guys, in all honesty, I am very worried about the refs, because if you notice, they, when of all the kind of robberies this year, when we were 7 points clear in La Liga, there was a very deliberate, concerted effort, and the 4 matches immediately after we hit 7 points clear, the 4 matches after that, I think it was Rayo Vallecano, Atlético de Madrid, Osasuna, and I think Espanyol or Betis, and those 4 matches, there were absolutely blatant decisions that were unequivocally wrong. You can't even argue with them, and they robbed us of 7 points of 9 in a 3-game stretch. And I'm very worried that the way that this little mafia works is that they'll turn it on when they need it. And given that Barça has been eliminated from the Champions League now, and they really need to win La Liga, I'm very worried that the refs are going to turn the mafia switch back on. And I'm really worried about some of the calls that we're going to see over the weekend, because Barça needs to win this now in the state of mind that they're in. And I think that the entire Barça mafia entourage of La Liga and Media Pro, the refs, they're definitely going to have a little conversation. And I'm very worried about some of the decisions that could take place on the weekend. But I just wanted to mention that. Okay, one final thing to mention. I think I am going to set up a Twitch channel. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I think I will do it. I don't know if I'll be able to set it up in time for the Club World Cup, but I'll definitely have it set up for next season. And I think it would be fun to kind of do watch-alongs, and you can hear my commentary. You guys can hear me cuss in Spanish in a lot of different ways, so I think you guys will find it amusing. But I'll let you guys know when that's up and running. But anyway, those are just some takeaways from last night. I had to get it off my chest and share it with you. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. As always, thanks for joining me. And as always, and forever, and more than ever, a la Madrid.